Inside this box, we have the brand new Surface Laptop 8. And inside it, we've got the brand new Snapdragon X2 Elite. But it's gotten so expensive that for the exact same price, you can get a MacBook Pro M5. So, is it even worth considering this over Apple's laptop? Hey, I'm Olive, and we're gonna show you how Microsoft secretly hid more than one ace up its sleeve. Starting with the looks, the first thing Microsoft nailed is the design. Personally, I love how much slimmer, sharper, and more importantly, more compact it feels compared to the Mac. What I would have loved though is a proper cutout to open the lid, since it only has a barely raised border. Both laptops feature a premium aluminum build, though the bottom plate of the Surface is actually made of plastic, which to be fair helps it keep the overall weight under 3 pounds. Plus, it hides a very welcome feature the Mac lacks, but we'll get to that in just a moment. Port selection is great on both, and both also support Thunderbolt 4, though we prefer the Mac's layout because you get USB-C ports on both sides, plus an SD card reader, something completely missing on the Surface. On the flip side though, the Surface Connect magnetic port can handle power, data, Ethernet, and external displays, just like a Thunderbolt port. When it comes to the feel, both keyboards are great, but the Surface keys are a bit on the spongier side. As for the trackpads, I still think Apple's haptic trackpad is the best we've ever used. Plus, as you can see, it's noticeably larger. But when you look at the displays, you'll realize neither of these give you panels worth your cash, especially on the Surface. Overall, both of these displays are roughly the same size and both are IPS. However, the Mac has a mini LED panel with local dimming, which is fine, but for what you're paying, you get no OLED panels here. Plus, local dimming causes this very distracting blooming when you watch content in a dark room. That said, the Surface actually fares worse with terrible viewing angles in those exact same conditions. When it comes to brightness, the MacBook pushed out higher numbers during our testing, though in daily use, we didn't really notice a massive difference. But the Surface does have a secret weapon against the Mac's display, and its ugly notch, a touchscreen. It might not seem like a huge deal, but directly interacting with the OS makes for a much smoother workflow when you're diving into menus or just rearranging windows. For the full screen specs, you can pause the video right here. So does this touchscreen automatically make the Surface the superior laptop? Honestly, no. I mean, it's a cool feature, but on the Mac, you just get more of everything. Higher resolution, better brightness, and true HDR. But at the end of the day, it's the raw performance you should mainly care about. And even though both of these are running on ARM processors, one of them straight up blows it up. As I mentioned, this Surface has the brand new Snapdragon X2 Elite inside, while the Mac features the base M5 processor, giving you 12 and 10 cores respectively. Now remember how I mentioned that the Surface has a plastic underside? Well, that actually allows for a removable SSD so you can easily replace or even upgrade your storage down the line. And we all here at the office absolutely love that. But to show you what these processors are really capable of, we ran a long list of tests for you. We kept both laptops plugged in because this guarantees the absolute fairest results. Running our testing on battery introduces just too many variables that can deliver unreliable data. So before we dive into our real-world testing and gaming, let's see what the benchmarks had to say. First up on the list was Cinebench, and as you can see, the Mac didn't just dominate in multi-thread performance, it beat the Surface in single thread too. And I've gotta say it, the margins were massive. In the Geekbench CPU benchmark, we once again saw the Mac taking the crown, and even though the gap wasn't quite as extreme as in Cinebench, the scores tell a very definite story. As for graphical performance, the GPU benchmark shows another night and day difference, with the Mac basically doubling the Surface's score. Staying on the topic of graphics, the Surface completely plummeted in 3D Mark's Solar Bay Extreme, delivering only 10 frames per second, while the Mac topped out at a comfortable 30. But wait until we show you how these two handled Cyberpunk 2077, because you're in for a massive surprise. In the meantime, continuing with the benchmarks, Blender was an absolute catastrophe for the Surface. It pushed out really low numbers compared to the Mac, which sliced through the test like it was nothing. Speedometer clocked another win into the Mac's scoreboard, showing slightly faster web performance in Safari compared to Edge on the Surface. Finally, it's more of the same story for storage speeds, with the Mac being overall much quicker when it comes to moving all kinds of files around. But hey, those are just benchmarks, and nobody nobody runs benchmarks in their day-to-day life. We kicked things off by exporting a massive batch of 99 photos in Lightroom, and both machines were incredibly quick. It's true that the Surface still trailed behind, but only by a tight 13 seconds, so there's hope for the Surface. Next up, we put together a 10-minute 4K 25 FPS project in DaVinci Resolve, and that hope died quicker than you on your first Dark Souls playthrough. This Surface took over 16 minutes to finish the export, while the Mac wrapped it up in under 4. And things got even worse in Adobe Premiere Pro. Using that exact same project, the Surface froze every single time we tried to render it out. Premiere runs natively on Windows on ARM now, so this shouldn't be happening, but there's clearly still something off with the system. But let's wrap things up with some gaming. We know Windows on ARM isn't exactly the ultimate gaming platform right now, but we ran Cyberpunk 2077, one of the most demanding games out there, just to give you a baseline of what to expect. First, we set the game to the medium preset and ran the internal benchmark, and boy, this was rough. The MacBook, which is not a dedicated gaming machine, pushed out over double the frame rate of the Surface. And we could have just stopped there, but hey, we're Versus, and we wanted to see what happens when you crank the visuals up even higher. So we selected Ultra settings, and the MacBook was actually still playable, whereas the Surface dropped down to just 18 FPS. But we wanted even more, so we engaged Ray Tracing Overdrive, and I'm happy to report that if you happen to love Microsoft PowerPoint, the Surface will give you a stunning 1 frame per second slideshow. We also measured temperatures after 30 minutes of actual gameplay, and both laptops hit pretty similar thermals, with the Mac running just a couple of degrees higher. So this goes to show that Qualcomm and Microsoft still need to sit down and figure their stuff out, because despite Windows on ARM being more polished than ever, it's nowhere near the performance the M5 chip inside this Mac delivers. But ARM architecture is popular for being incredibly battery efficient, and Microsoft might just have a total game changer waiting to make you run straight to the Microsoft Store. But before we drop the results of our battery drain test, you should know that both of these machines run the absolute latest software and promise years of support, though Windows historically guarantees up to 10. I also need to point out that certain legacy apps and games simply will not run on this ARM version of Windows, though most major developers have native versions out there. On the flip side, Apple is set to fully sunset support for legacy Intel-based software by late 2027. So if you rely on ancient apps, you're going to need to look for modern alternatives soon, no matter which ecosystem you pick. But enough about that, let us show you our infamous battery drain test. For context, the MacBook actually has a larger battery compared to the Surface, and it also supports faster charging speeds. But let's see how these two do when pushed to the limit. Our drain test consists of video streaming, web scrolling, and even a bit of gaming for good measure. We set them up and just let them run until they say bye-bye. And to our surprise, the MacBook went dark in just under 3 hours. The Surface kept going on for almost 5. That gives us more than 2 full hours of extra battery life on the Windows machine. Whatever optimization Microsoft is pulling off behind the scenes, it's definitely working. Just imagine if this thing had an even bigger battery. But before we wrap up this review, let me very quickly show you how these webcams look, plus one more hidden Surface feature that Apple just doesn't have, even if you paid big bucks for their fancy computer. So here's what the cameras look like coming out from both of these devices. Over here, we have the Surface, and over here, we've got the MacBook. What do you guys think? But now let's switch off the lights and see how they handle low light conditions. Okay, so here we have a very low light situation. Only one lamp here that's on. How are they handling it? Here's what the Surface looks like. And then over here, we have the MacBook. Which one's doing better? What do you guys think? So the Surface isn't terrible, but it's definitely hazier. Plus, in low light, detail gets lost and you get this weird ghosting effect. Microphone audio, however, is pretty similar on both, so there's that. But despite the MacBook having that chunky notch, it's completely useless. This Surface has 0 notch, and yet it still packs Windows Hello for secure facial recognition. So you get no Face ID on the Mac, but you do get it on the Surface. Irony at its finest. While that sinks in, take a listen to these speakers.
Smoking on his eye, swear really got me fried. I've been through a lot, I swear it helps me clear my mind. We put some work on the streets, we in overdrive. Saving 30% just to pay the fine. Only hit my phone if you need a 3-5. We're making business moves, everyone is justified. My old lady dialed me up like when you coming home. I'm a man in these streets is my home.
So So how many coins will either of these drain from your bank account? Well, both go for the exact same $1,999 for the exact same 16 gigabytes of RAM and 1 terabyte of storage, which means I can't even make a joke about buying ridiculous amounts of groceries this time around. Now, while the price tag is completely identical, there are massive differences when it comes to the overall experience. And while Microsoft and Qualcomm have made huge leaps with Windows on ARM, this is still not quite it, Captain. The MacBook might not have a touchscreen or that record-breaking battery life, but you get overall better performance and far wider app compatibility, which are basically the main reasons you buy a laptop in the first place. Oh, and ironically, you can also game much better on it, at least the titles that are compatible. Speaking of compatibility, if you do decide to take the good-looking Surface for a spin, you can check out this website to see if the apps you use will actually run on it. On the other hand, you might have heard that Samsung also has a brand new Windows laptop out, and in this overheated comparison, pun intended, you will see how it stacks up against a similar configuration of this MacBook Pro M5. Also, in case you want exclusive access to videos and perks, go ahead and press that join button. Here's a very special shout out to our latest Ultra members, Marcer and Bro. And before you go and grab some snacks, don't forget to give us a big thumbs up if you enjoyed this video and hit subscribe, as we're always testing new devices to help you make the best choice. We'll see you in our next video, and until then, take care.